In this class. Good morning to all of you. And today we are going to discuss organic farming and why there is need to go for organic farming. What is the history of organic farming? Current status of organic farming in India and world, and many issues related to organic farming. It cannot be finished in one lecture or two lectures, but I will try to cover the subject in two lectures. So, of course, this is first lecture, and the things which will be left can be covered in second lecture. So, at the bottom, you can see it is chef, CHEF, chef. Chef, you can remember these four letters to remember the principles of organic farming. C for principle of care, H for principle of health, E for principle of ecology, and F for principle of fairness. So these are the four principles. We'll discuss later just to make a beginning. And you can see there are four organic components. Components of organic farming are four. You can remember these are also called as pillars of organic farming. Or actually, this is the syllabus of organic farming. If you know these four things, you have covered the organic farming subject. One is organic standards, you can remember. Number two is certification, means regulatory mechanism. Number three is technology package. And number four is marketing network. Organic standards are the things that a farmer or that a producer or that a processor should do. Means the do's and don'ts are listed in organic standards. Every country has its own standard now. The countries which are not having their own standards, they are following standards of FAO, or maybe they borrowed from other countries. So actually organic farming, in organic standards, the terms and conditions of farming or production are laid down. Maybe for animal production, maybe for bee production, maybe for fish production or crop production or fruit production, any kind of agricultural production, the list is there that can be done, what kind of work can be done, what is allowed in organic farming and what is not allowed. That is a written document which is known as organic standards. India has its own organic standards. We will discuss later. Next is certification. How the consumer will believe that this particular product is genuinely organic. It has been produced by following the organic standards. So somebody need to verify it. Somebody need to certify it. So to certify, you need certification. So it is done by some third party. Farmer cannot do his own certification because consumer will not believe. So this is just to safeguard the interest of the consumer. If he is paying more money, then he should genuinely get the organic product. So this is how certification is required. Number three is technology package. It is the production package, or it is the techniques or technologies to produce organic food. Because here many inputs what we use in conventional agriculture are not allowed here. So here the technology package may be different. The manures may be different. The control of weeds may be different. The management of insect pest and disease may be different. So we need a technology package for organic production, for organic processing and so on. So organic standards, certification, technology package, and fourth one is marketing network. How a farmer can get better money, better return from organic products. Because many times people say that they are expensive, and farmers have some problem also in marketing their products. So this is also part of organic farming. So you can remember that these are the four important pillars or components of organic farming. Sometimes people may ask you question, what are the components of organic farming, or what are the important pillars of organic farming? In organic agriculture, the major aspect, it is just kind of syllabus of organic farming. You may see major aspect are, for example, history. How is the current status? How much organic area is there, and how this to what countries India is exporting. What are the differences in conventional and organic farming? Different definitions, need of organic farming, opportunities, import, export, government policies, standards I just discussed, we need to know certification process, certification agencies, ICS is internal control system. This is done by farmers. They maintain a record of the operations or practices that has been adopted by the farmers. They write in register in on paper, internal control system. And then there are several issues related to organic farming where people raise questions, productivity, sustainability, quality, safety issues. All these will be discussed in subsequent slides. Package of practices of different crops or animals, crop diversification, sowing time, methods. So these are your technology package. These are part of your technology package, seed and varieties. Now people are breeding varieties which are specifically suited to organic condition. Like you see, some varieties have come up for conservation agriculture. Similarly, the breeding work has been started, not in India, but in many other countries, such work has been started. Plant nutrition, insect pest, disease management, all part of technology package. Sorry. And then in technology package, you also have nutrient sources. What are the different diversified sources for organic farming? And if you have a practical in this course, or organic farming considered as a course, then you will go for soil analysis, chemical, physical, biological qualities of the soil. Soil quality index is also important. Hello, hello,
Yes, sir.
can you
Yes,
hear
sir.
Yes,
me?
sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. There is some problem in my this. Anyway, you go for soil organic matter determination and soil respiration or enzymes. The soil respiration and enzymes tell us indirectly the status of soil biological activity. If you want to know the population or activity of organism, so indirectly it can be measured by measuring the soil respiration or soil enzymes. Similarly, microbial biomass, carbon, micronutrients, and also we can go for testing of the foods, testing of the foods produced by organic system, testing for pesticide residues, and testing for different quality parameters. These are the two important aspects. Now we see many times, friends, you see that people say it is organic farming, and some people say it is organic agriculture. So what is the difference between these two? So I just browsed through the dictionary and I found there is no difference in organic agriculture or organic farming because there is no difference in farming and agriculture. If you take in broader sense, so meaning of agriculture and meaning of farming is synonymous. And third word is husbandry. Husbandry is also same to farming. So you can see the meaning of agriculture in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the science, art, or practice of cultivating the soil, producing crops, and raising livestock, and in varying degree of preparation and marketing of the resulting products. This is agriculture. And if you see the Merriam-Webster dictionary, Cambridge, it is saying that farming, agriculture is equivalent to farming. The practice or work of farming, the business, science, or activity of farming is your agriculture. Then you see the definitions or meaning of the farming. Meaning of farming is the practice of agriculture. So one has been used to explain the other. Farming has been used to explain agriculture, and agriculture has been used to explain farming. So what I feel that these two words are same. So either you call organic agriculture or organic farming, the meaning is same. In developing countries, in India, in many such countries, we refer it organic farming, and in developed world they call it organic agriculture. I don't think there is any major difference in organic agriculture or organic farming. So, Now you see, there are different methods of farming. We try to understand where organic farming fits. So there may be n number of methods of cultivation of crop, methods of farming, methods of agriculture. And no method is pure. No method is pure itself. So there may be many variants of the production systems. For example, one is modern agriculture or modern farming, conventional farming. It can be known by the names like chemical farming or industrial farming. Means our existing farming is your modern agriculture. The other kind of farming can be organic farming. See the third one, organic agriculture or organic farming or organic systems. So in between these two, modern agriculture and organic agriculture, there lies another kind of farming which is integrated crop management or which can be part of integrated farming system. So you see these three, first and three, these are the two extreme. In first case, you use lot of chemicals, lot of fertilizers, lot of pesticides are used in modern agriculture. In organic agriculture, they are not allowed at all. And in between these two, you find integrated crop management. So you see this circle, particularly this circle. In ICM, you follow integrated pest management, IDM, weed management, integrated nutrient management. All the good agricultural practices are combined to produce the crop. This is your integrated crop management. If you take, if you make this ICM as a part of integrated farming system, then it will become it will become integrated farming system because you will add some animals into it. And you can remember, don't get confused, that many times this integrated farming system can be organic, like in hill agriculture. In many hill states, they are starting this integrated farming system under organic background. So it is not that integrated farming system is always having the conventional or ICM only. It can have organic systems also. So these are the three important ways by which our farmers do produce the crops: modern farming, integrated crop management, and organic agriculture. Now, many times you will be asked, what is the difference in conventional agriculture and organic agriculture or organic farming? So these 8 points you can remember. These are the 8 points of difference. On the basis of these points, you can make differences in conventional agriculture and organic agriculture. For example, agricultural inputs of farming practices. Based upon this particular point, I can say that in agricultural inputs, in conventional farming, we go for chemical fertilizers, artificial or synthetic pesticide. In organic farming, I can say they are not allowed. For productivity, I will discuss in detail in next lecture. Productivity issues in conventional farming, many questions are raised on the productivity. Can it be sustainable or not? So generally, productivity is still lower in organic system than in conventional system in short run. In short run, productivity is more in conventional agriculture and less in organic agriculture in short run. But in long run, both can produce equal quantity of the crops. Then third point of difference could be food safety and quality. Conventional food may have residues of the pesticides. However, organic food is safe from the pesticides. So this is third point. Fourth point is soil health. So definitely soil health is not good under conventional system as compared to the organic system. In organic system, soil health is always good because we are using organic manures. We are following crop rotations under organic system. So soil health is always good in organic system compared to the conventional system. The fifth point of difference is GM crops. They are allowed in some cases, selected cases, under conventional system. However, in organic system, GM crops are not allowed. We will discuss in detail. Biodiversity. Biodiversity is reducing in conventional agriculture. In organic agriculture, biodiversity increases. Environment. In conventional agriculture, environment gets polluted. In organic agriculture, there is less pollution than the conventional farming. Economics and income. In conventional farming, income is generally less now, people say, because cost of production is increasing. In organic farming, one can earn more income. is still debatable, but for the time being, you can say that in conventional agriculture, income is low. In organic agriculture, income is more. I'll show you how it is more later. So these are the 7-8 points, friends. You can remember these points, and based upon these points, you can make difference in two kind of agriculture: conventional agriculture and organic farming. Now, question comes: why one should go for organic farming? Why one should go for organic farming, or what are the how this consequences? What are the problems associated with conventional agriculture? And when the conventional agriculture started? Before the industrial revolution, I think many of you know about the industrial revolution that happened in Europe and America and some other countries. So industrial revolution happened during 1760 to 1850, 1840, sorry, 1840. And whenever you are asked that why a farmer or why a government, why a country should go for organic farming, you give the following justification. You start with the industrial revolution and also cover the green revolution in India or in Asian countries. So these have been the main driving force for adoption of organic agriculture. So you can see that this industrial revolution, what kind of technological developments were made by the industrial revolution and post-industrial revolution. These were the developments in textiles. Now, new machines were invented for weaving the clothes and so on. Steam power was there, James Watt and so on. They made some engines, and iron making was started. Invention of machines and tools, glass making, gas lighting, cement making, all modern industries were developed. And similarly in agriculture also, the same thing was extended to agriculture also. For example, some machine mechanization increased in agriculture due to industrial revolution, and tillage implements were invented. Harvesting was done by machines, spraying equipments, transport increased, road, railways, and so on. Chemicals, pesticides were invented, and fertilizer introduced. So all these modern inputs were started to be used in agriculture in post-industrial revolution period. Similarly, green revolution started in late 60s in India, and people started using more fertilizer, more pesticide, more irrigation, and so on. So this is how we got revolution, two important revolution that introduced modern tools in agriculture, modern tools in agriculture. So you can see Jethro Tull invented the horse-drawn hoe and a seed drill with tines to sow the row crops. Means tillage started, sowing of the crops in rows started because of the machine. And similarly, SSP, single superphosphate, was synthesized in England, and then the first tractor was made in USA in 1910. It was internal combustion engine. Haber-Bosch, already know ammonia synthesis, and then you could make variety of fertilizers. And then DDT, many of you may not be knowing the full form of DDT, but it was very dangerous pesticide, very dangerous insecticide, which caused cancer in human beings. So DDT was made in Switzerland by Muller, and then BSC, maybe it is banned, already banned for so many years, benzene hexachloride. So this is also very dangerous pesticide banned throughout the world. So, and then nitrophenols were herbicides. So what I mean to say that lot of fertilizers, lot of pesticides, including weedicide, fungicide, herbicide, all kind of sites were developed and they started being used in agriculture. And similarly, the Liebig contribution of Liebig. So based upon Liebig's discovery or Liebig's law of minimum or Liebig's other law of this mineral nutrition and so on, people started making fertilizer. So he was the main driving force to make the fertilizers. And now, because of these modern tools, use of pesticide, use of fertilizers, several problems came. So there are many consequences, many results of the modern farming. modern farming, and these are the things which are the reasons for adoption of organic farming. So if somebody asks you what are the consequences of modern farming, they are the same. What will be the purpose of organic farming? Why we should go for organic farming? So the first reason for going to organic farming is decline in factor productivity and economics. So you remember that government is trying to double the farmer's income. Why it is doing so? Because that means there is reduced income. That is why government want to increase the income. So income of the farmers is definitely low. I will not go into the reasons why the income of the farmer is low, but it is, I can tell you, mainly because of some natural factors, climatic factors, and also because of certain policies of the government. That is why farmers are not getting good price of their output. So decline in factor productivity means you are adding more and more, and you are getting less and less in terms of your economics, in terms of your money. So that is the reason, that is decline in factor productivity. I usually give example of paddy that 30 years before, 1 kg nitrogen could give you, say, 30 kg grain of rice. But now 1 kg nitrogen is giving you 18 or 20 kg grain of rice. That means you need to add more amount of fertilizer to get the same yield. So that is how the productivity of the factors is decreasing. And I also understand that you are knowing about the factors of production. What are the factors of production? Land, labor, capital, and management. These are the four important factors of production. From capital, you can buy inputs. From capital, you can buy fertilizers, you can buy seed, you can buy machine, you can buy all sorts of inputs from the capital. So productivity of all these factors is declining. And seeing this, Sharad Joshi was a famous supporter of the farmers, partially politician, but mostly concerned about the farmers. And he said that we are also dying, you are also dying. Discussing with the farmer is saying to a consumer, we die by selling cheaper and you die by buying costlier. That means the channels, the marketing channels take the advantage of this, and consumer suffers, and also the producer or the farmer. Uh, I think there is some problem in this. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So actually I'm not able to display my presentation. I don't know what has happened to it. Just wait. It is not visible. Okay, it has come. Now, the first reason to go for organic farming was decline in factor productivity, and economics means benefits. And the next is your unsafe food. Unsafe food, I think I need not to go in detail. You know how much pesticide we are consuming daily. I need not to say it. You see the how much pesticide use is increasing in agriculture. So many times these pesticide come to our food in more than the permissible limit. And if they come in more than permissible limit means they will cause lot of damage to our internal body organs. They can cause many diseases also. The next problem with the conventional agriculture is that reduced biodiversity in agroecosystem. Now, if you go to any agricultural area, you will find very few number of crops, very few plants. Many species are just have become extinct also. So biodiversity is reducing. See the case of Punjab, where in 60s they were growing about 15 to 16 crops in Punjab. Now they are growing just for 5 or 6 kind of crops. That means if your number of crops or number of plants are decreasing, the organism, macro or micro, whosoever are dependent upon those crops, they will also become less and less in number. So if you increase the above ground biodiversity by plants, the animal above ground biodiversity also decreases. Similarly, below ground diversity also decreases. So definitely biodiversity is declining, and I think I need not to overemphasize the role of biodiversity. It is very, very important. If you can kill your honeybees by pesticide, they will punish you back by producing less pollination and then less seed setting. So if you kill natural organism, your own life will be in danger. It will be affected. Many times we understand that okay, honeybee, if we kill it by using pesticide or by having these mast, the telephone towers are also killing honeybees. Then they will not do pollination, and ultimately your seed setting and seed production or grain production will decrease. It is a truth beyond doubt. Everybody agrees to it. But there may be many, many organisms whose role we do not understand. And that role may be very, very indispensable, very, very useful to us. But we don't know how many organisms are indirectly helping us and how many such organisms we are indirectly killing. So this is important that the biodiversity is decreasing due to conventional agriculture, and we need to increase it. Uh, Decreased quality of soil, water, and air. You understand that soil is polluted by pesticides, by fertilizers, by sewage sludge, sometimes irrigation. We use sewage sludge water. Polythene is reaching our soil. So soil gets polluted in modern farming. Water, definitely, if your soil is polluted, it will lead to the soil. Sometimes soil erosion is there. So this soil will reach your water bodies, your rivers, oceans, and so on. Similarly, leaching will happen. Leaching of chemicals or pesticides can happen. So both your groundwater and surface water gets affected by such practices. And air quality, I think the pesticides can go back to the air also while spraying them. When we spray them, they can go to air. When we use them in soil, they can be evaporated from the soil, and they can reach air also. Fertilizer, fertilizer denitrification, all these things. So then finally, if your air is polluted, water is polluted, and your soil is polluted, then your environment is polluted. Environmental pollution is your this kind of pollution, and environmental pollution will lead to global warming. You understand better this how this global warming happens, and finally this will lead to your climate change. And this climate change will again punish you back because you have disturbed the environment, and that has led to the change in climate. So it will give you back. It will create many troubles to you. So better to stop this pollution so that we can avoid the climate change. Next is there are several variants of organic farming, and people get confused, really confused. Everybody wants to be to develop, to create, to start his own religion, so that I can remember, I can earn my bread and butter. There are many reasons that people are creating so many variations of the organic farming. Like you see in politics, there are so many political parties, and they say that I have different ideology, my party will do this and that. Similarly, in organic systems, you have several variants. The main thing behind all these is that all these systems do not want to use chemicals. They do not like to use artificial or synthetic pesticides. This is number one. They want to increase the diversity. All these systems want to increase the diversity of the system. They are interested in improving the soil health and getting the good or quality product. So you can see the names like organic farming. One is the typical modern organic agriculture, which was mainly developed by Albert Howard. He's also called as father of modern organic agriculture. Then biodynamic agriculture, Rudolf Steiner. Permaculture, natural farming by Fukuoka, agroecological farming. These are the variants, just variants with slight differences. Agroecological farming, sustainable yogic agriculture by Brahma Kumaris. They have one rural youth wing which is doing this sustainable yogic agriculture. Means you do organic agriculture and combine it with meditation. Organic agriculture plus meditation plus yoga, it will make your sustainable yogic agriculture. Shashwat Jaivik Kheti, they call it Shashwat Jaivik Kheti. Homeopathic farming or agricultural homeopathy, it is also there. Homa farming, just by doing havans around the fields, you can grow crops. This is homa farming. Many times people will laugh on certain concepts. I do not know how this havan will increase your crop yield. So, but it is there. It is being adopted by people, by Indian people. This is by Indian people. Then Vedic Kheti is from Vedas, Rishis, Munis, this Vedic Kheti. Another is Rishi Kirshi Desh Pandey agriculture technique. So these are another. Cow-based organic farming is quite popular these days. You must be listening a lot about cow urine and Panchkavya, this and that. Vaishnav Kheti, Ahimsa Kheti, Shiv Yog Lokik Kheti, zero budget natural farming, and then low budget natural farming and low cost organic farming. The list is endless, friends. The list is endless, and surprisingly, government is also accepting some of them, like zero budget natural farming. It has been for in the beginning it was accepted by the government, but now since ICR and Agriculture University do not verify this claim, so now it is not that much in news. But still, the person, the Subhas Palekar, he is continuing with his thoughts, with his farming. So I cannot explain in detail about zero budget natural farming, but you can see the concept, maybe good or bad, but as a student, you need to know about it. Now, in brief, we will cover the history of organic agriculture. And just I want to inform you, at 12 o'clock, we will have a 15 minutes break at 12 o'clock. So now in history, we will see the brief history of the world. It starts with the F.H. King. He wrote a book. He traveled through Korea, through Japan, through China. For many months, he traveled. He taken a lot of pictures. And whatever experience he gained from the farming of these Asian countries, he has written those in the book. This book is freely available on the internet. Anybody can download it. Those who are interested and those who want to see his contributions can see this book. So he was also basically soil scientist and written many papers on this aspect. So just you can remember that author of the book was F.H. King. F.H. King, Farmers of the 40th Century. Then Rudolf Steiner, I think you know biodynamic agriculture. He given the concept, and actually he has not written any book, and he delivered some lectures that were written by his disciples, and 8 lectures were compiled in 1924. And his disciples, they had some business interest. And based upon his lecture, they made organic standards as early as in 1928 they made. And the organization formed around Steiner's teaching, creating the set of standards to define sustainable agriculture practices. Means they started producing organic food by following standards in 1928. So it was not just religious or just, it was business also, friends. It was business also behind all these things. So now this in America, in USA also they started organic farming, and this Lord Northumberland was the first person to use the term organic farming, and he has written a fantastic book, Look to the Land. And the farm itself must have a biological completeness. He treated whole farm as one unit, and which was living unit according to him. And you need to see the things in totality. Don't see the things from just from one angle or just from point of view of one discipline. So see the things in totality. And then in England, this was the Lady Eve Balfour. Balfour was a very famous surname in England. Many politicians had this surname Balfour. So she wrote a book, The Living Soil, in 1943, and she spread the concept of organic farming in Europe as well as in the world. And this book inspired the founding of the Soil Association in Britain, which is still continuing. Soil Association of Britain or in UK is continuing. She found that there is a close relationship between soil fertility, human health, and the decline in soil humus or fertility result in decline in human health. Means if your soil health is declining, human health will decline. So this book is also available on the net. Now, in 1947, the people had shown some concern in, especially in Europe. They found the doctors and many people said that these chemicals are coming to our food and they are causing cancer. So they started movement. They started public opinion against the conventional farming, against the chemical farming, as early as in 1947. And J.I. Rodale was a publisher. Basically, he was a publisher who used to publish dictionaries, thesaurus, and many books. But with the time, he got some interest in organic farming and gardening, J.I. Rodale. And Rodale Press was also there. I think it is also continuing, this Rodale Press. So he was author, publisher, and demonstrated that organic farming and gardening techniques on his research farm. And actually, he also collaborated with Albert Howard. Albert Howard was writing many papers for his magazines, and he was founder of the Rodale Press and popularized the concept of organic farming in USA. He has written a book, Healthy Hunjas. I will explain about Hunja people. So he wrote a book that why these people are healthy. So he came out with conclusion that they are eating organic food. So therefore they are healthy people. In 1947, Rodale established the Soil and Health Foundation, which is now called as the Rodale Institute. The Rodale Institute in USA is dedicated to the research work and extension on organic farming. Rodale Institute. So you can see the website of Rodale Institute and find some useful information about US organic agriculture. Then you know about M. Fukuoka in Japan. He started one-store revolution and he was proponent of organic farming, but at the same time he combined it with no-tillage, that let the plant grow at their own, like they are growing in nature. Do not make any interference. Let us allow, just put the seed in the soil and then they will grow. They will take care of themselves. So you need not to do anything in this farming. So it has got certain followers also, and some people criticize also. So no-till, no herbicide grain production techniques called natural farming or do nothing farming by Fukuoka. And he has written many books. Uh, and then came the Raquel Carson, lady from USA, and she was basically marine biologist, scientist, author, and conservationist. And the Silent Spring, the book Silent Spring was quite popular. She opened the world's eyes to the damage done by the pesticide, mainly by the pesticide, and she raised the issues of the health of the people. And she said that there is nexus between the industries, pesticide industry, and the government, which should be broken down. Then Hans Muller and Mary Muller, they were husband wife. They propagated concept of organic agriculture in Switzerland and in some other European countries in collaboration with Hans Peter Rush, who was a scientist. And these three people, Muller's husband wife and this Hans Peter Rush, they developed the concept of biological agriculture. Biological agriculture concept was developed by Mullers and Hans Peter Rush. Complete name is Organic Biological Agriculture. So this Hans Peter, he suggested that the concept of the living particle, which was later on demolished by people. So this idea was not accepted by the people, idea of living particles. But anyhow, these people were supporting organic farming. Maybe some raw theory, maybe some wrong theory. Then IFOM, the official organization of the world, which is by the NGOs, non-government organization, International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movement. It was basically first time established in France in 1972. Later on, it was moved to Bonn, Germany. So now, right now, it is in Germany, head office, and it provides authoritative information about organic agriculture and promote it worldwide and exchange knowledge. Lot of work are being done by IFOM for the promotion of organic farming. And then Meadows et al. There were four authors of this publication, The Limits of Growth. It was fantastic publication and issue of growth of human population to the global economy. What will happen if the human population is continuously growing and how it will affect our environment? Means your population, environment, and your economics. These three things were combined. There should be some limit to the growth. And then E.F. Schumacher, his book, Small is Beautiful. This was very famous book and is still available on net. And now many people have copied his idea of this. Now people are writing books like Big is Beautiful, B-I-G. Big is beautiful, small is not always beautiful, something like that. So his idea was, the name of the book was Small is Beautiful, a study of economics as if people mattered. People mattered. So he wrote many radical ideas about including the concept of sacrificing economic growth for a more filling working life and making quality of life. He was supporting idea of organic agriculture that you will sacrifice, means you will lose economy. You will not, it may not be very beneficial in terms of money, but it will benefit the soil, it will benefit the people, it will improve the health of the people. So that should be part of economics. Health of the people should be part of economics. Like see the recent case of corona. Here, if government was money minded, then it could not have put the lockdown because you could have earned money. The economics or the growth of the economy could have been more. But government thought, let us stop this economics. Let us go for the welfare of the people. So what he felt, that welfare of the people is more important than the economics. And on his book, he has put picture of Mahatma Gandhi also. So maybe he was inspired by his thought. Now in 1970s, Know Your Farmer, Know Your Food. So this campaign was started mainly in Europe, and then it is spread to some other countries that local food is good. We should get the local food, not the imported food. Let us produce it by organic methods and supply to the local people. 1980s group pressure of government regulation, means countries started putting pressure on the respective governments. Let us bring some legal things into the organic farming, make it rule, like we have certain acts in India, Insecticide Act, Seed Act, number of acts are there. Why there are no such act from the parliament? Why there is no any legal issues? In 1989, Cuba instituted urban food production called Organoponicos. And in 1990s, retail market for organic farming growing. So you can go through it. Now history in India, we see history in India. It is mainly started with Albert Howard, Sir Albert Howard, 1905 to 1924. He organic agriculture begins in Central Europe and India simultaneously. So actually in India he started, and his ideas and thoughts were spread to Europe and America. He was continuously contributing research papers. He was writing articles in magazines and writing books. So through those books and through those writing, his ideas spread to Europe, America, as well as in India. So basically, he was a botanist, and he came to India, to our ex-IRI, which is in Pusa, Samastipur, Bihar, where he started doing some work of breeding wheat varieties. And later on, by seeing the Indian farming, the sustainable agriculture of India that time, he was quite impressed, and he moved to Indore. In Indore, he requested the Raja of Indore that time, who gave him some land, and he started farming on that land. And during his stay in Indore, he developed several concepts in organic farming. He made a lot of research. He took help of his wife, as well as his sister was also there. So there were three people. They developed the method of aerobic composting also, which is known as Indore process of composting. So in 1943, he wrote a book, An Agricultural Testament. It is available online free. You can get, and it is hardly 150, 140 pages. And I recommend you to read this book. Whenever you find leisure time, not now, in your life, if you find time and if you are in the same profession, you should read this book, An Agricultural Testament. And then in 1947, he wrote book, The Soil and Health, a study of organic agriculture. So this was the first time that a book had a title, Organic Agriculture. Means book has organic agriculture as in his title of a book. So on the left side, you can see an agricultural testament. On the right side, it is The Soil and Health, a study of organic agriculture. So these are the two books. So he worked on Indore and developed the aerobic composting technique. Now, next British person in India, he made very significant contribution, more significant contribution than the Albert Howard, I think. So he was uh, McCarrison, Robert McCarrison. He was a physician in the Indian Army that time. He was a doctor, and he was associated with Indian Army, and originally he established a Institute of Nutrition, was founded in 1918 by Sir Robert McCarrison. Originally a single room laboratory at the Pasteur Institute, which was in India, in Kunnur, Tamil Nadu, for the study of beriberi disease. I think you know beriberi disease. He was medical, associated with medical. The facility moved to Hyderabad in 1958, and in 1969 it was renamed the National Institute of Nutrition. This is very important institute of India now, looking for health issues, nutrition, food, and this and that. National Institute of Nutrition, now located in Hyderabad, which comes under Indian Council of Medical Research. ICMR is the father of this institute, National Institute of Nutrition, and it was established by McCarrison. And Robert McCarrison Research Laboratory in Kuno. Okay. He found that the decreased food quality due to increased use of mineral nitrogen fertilizer. He was the person who said that if you use chemical fertilizer in soil, it decreases the quality. Because if you use organic manure, the plant will get balanced nutrition. So that kind of food produced from the organic condition will be having better quality than the chemically produced food. So he also studied the health and physics of Hunja. These Hunja people were studied by many scientists. So you see this picture is from his research paper, where he compared the physics of Indian races depending upon the kind of food. So based upon this, he found that Sikh people have the best health in India because they eat the best food. Even their health was best or better than the European people. He studied like this. You can go in detail. He used rats for his studies. And then let us know about Hunja people. They live in the Hunja Valley, in the Karakoram mountains of the northern Pakistan. After Himalayas, these Karakoram ranges start, and the region is Gilgit-Baltistan, which is by force is a province of Pakistan now. The Hunza is situated northwest of the Hunza River. So you can see in the map, in this map on the right side, the Indian map is there. In the red, this is the Hunza region. Now, India think that it is part of India, this Hunza Valley. But part of this region was gifted to China. Pakistan has gifted this. So this is not a peaceful region now. Many problems are coming. People are raising their hands against the Pakistani government. But anyhow, our purpose is to know the history of Hunza people. They are indigenous to Hunza Valley in the Karakoram Mountains. And healthy living advocate J.I. Hunza, J.I. Rodale written a book on them. And Hunza noted for their longevity. They live for more years, and this Rodale said that healthy organic food and plenty of fresh air are the reason for their longevity. They still live more than 100 years. This is average age. So you can see these kind of people are there. Mostly they have blue eyes. And did you know that Hunza Valley, a small and remote mountainous place in Pakistan, is home to some of the healthiest people on earth? They live well past 100 years and have almost no reports of cancer. There is no cancer in this area. So the reason people say that now it is apricot, the fruit, which is very common there. So there are different views. The message is that pollution is very less there because of organic cultivation, mostly organic cultivations. Tractors are not visible, machines are very rare. So because of all these conditions, environment is good, it is mostly organic, so they are healthy. Now, what Government of India has done in recent time, launching of the National Program of Organic Production, NPOP. Remember NPOP, full form of NPOP, National Program of Organic Production. It started on 8th May 2000. What is the purpose of National Program of Organic Production, NPOP? It is actually, it was launched by EPIDA. This National Program of Organic Production was launched by EPIDA. The main objective of this program is promote, protect, and develop the Indian organic movement, install accreditation and certification process. Means it has given some legal framework to organic program. The accreditation and certification program started on 1st October 2001. Accreditation and certification. Accreditation here means authorizing the agency to do the job of certification. You can authorize a group, a private company, to do the job of certification. This process is known as accreditation, and the agency will be called as accredited agency. And organic logo was released by Government of India on 26 July 2002. You need not to remember the date, but year is really important. You can remember that in 2002, Government of India launched the organic logo. So some government intervention came in year 2000, 2001, 2000. It is continuing. Support of the government is continuing in India. So the Ministry of Commerce, the EPIDA department is part of Ministry of Commerce. And we made our organic standards also. National standards are available. First time they were made in 2005. Now they have been revised in 2014. They are available. Anybody interested can see that what is the process of certification in India. What are the different certification agencies? All details can be obtained from EPIDA. So we will continue. Can we break for 15 minutes? You can have your tea.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.